All right, what's up? Hi, judges and crazy heralds. This is Stephen, Ben, and Josh with our fourth episode covering Rhythm of War. If you don't even count the ones we did leading up to it and the pre-release chapters that I did. So we're still very invested in the book. We're still loving it and slowly making our way through. We're covering part 4 in this episode. So if you haven't read up to part 4, probably don't listen because we're going to be doing major spoilers. But the good news is we haven't read any further than that. So we haven't even read any of the interludes into part 5. So you are good to listen if you have not got that far either. So Ben, Josh, are we making the right decision here by pausing before getting into part 5? Because we're kind of right at the cusp here. And from what we've heard, it gets pretty exciting from here on out.
Yeah. I think that this might be one of the reasons I'm not enjoying this book as much as I thought I would, because I'm taking so much time to analyze like each part. And I'm not sure that's how the book's meant to be read. You know what I mean? So I feel like you're just meant to, especially the like transition between part 2 and 3 was like, you should just keep reading. You know what I mean? Or sorry, and between 3 and 4, so I don't know. I feel like too much.
I feel like we're shooting ourselves in the foot here by being content creators now.
Yeah, exactly. We're taking the hit so you don't have to.
Man, if you were to put any sand next to me, it would be immediately white because of how invested I am in this book.
Oh, nice. Did
that just come to you, man. Josh? That just came to you? No preparation?
Well, it came to me when you were doing your intro. I'm like, dang it, Ben beat me to a comment.
Okay.
But honestly, I've really been enjoying this book. And I think that there's some merit to what Ben's saying, that I think when you are creating content, you are thinking deeper and being a little bit more analytical and maybe critical of the book. But also for me, it's kept me reading at a faster pace than I would usually read, which has helped me stay, a lot more invested in the book and kind of immerse myself more, because I'm making myself set aside the time to do it and really take the time to read and understand it. I listened to all of part 2 twice because I read it myself, and then I was on a road trip with my wife and she was there. And so
expert.
I didn't. Yeah. And then I listened to most of part 3 twice. And so I feel like I've like kind of gotten the book, been a lot more immersed in the book than I usually would be.
Well, that's good that you're reading it faster, but these have been a bottleneck for me. Because I finished part.
Oh, come on! You had to wait one day. You waited one day.
A whole night of reading time. I could be done right now.
No, you were reading last night at like midnight or something.
No. I finished last night at like 9. I gave up like basically a whole night of reading time.
Hey, props to you, Ben, for making that commitment, because Jake and Ryan from Fantology didn't, and I'm just going to throw them under the bus right now. Yeah.
I wonder if they'll even listen to this one, or if they're just like such snobs that they've already finished the book, so they don't even care what we have to say in part 4.
I guess we'll see. We can find out, seeing how they treat us in the next recording we do together.
Yeah, I don't know. Jake and Ryan aren't the only ones not innocent, because you two both forgot to put spoiler tags on some very important comments.
Oh, come on. That was a minor thing. And hey, don't make it seem like Discord is full of dark and full of spoilers, because that was just a minor thing. It was edited right away. If you want to join Discord and talk with us, we do put spoiler tags on the comments. Major things will not be ruined for you, other than Josh picking at small little
Plus,
things.
that was in an admin channel. That was not even open to the public. So that's, well, I mean, I was going to ask you guys if you feel like there's a club going on in the Rhythm of War spoilers channel that you don't have access to. Every time I scroll back to the channel, I'm like, oh, gosh, dang it, I just want to be involved. It keeps on turning white.
You got to mute that channel.
I do.
It's an easy solution. Yeah. So if you want to talk with Fantology more, you can do that on our Discord channel, on our Discord server. That is, invites are on our episode descriptions and on our website and social media platforms. If you want to support the show, you can do that at patreon.com/Fantology_books. And you can find our full catalog at www.fantologybooks.com. Everything from lots of Sanderson things. We still need to cover more Sanderson. We haven't covered everything there. We're reading through Wheel of Time right now with a first-time reader. We've covered all of Dresden Files. That was a big chunk of 2020. And then I guess we'll see where we're going to go in 2021. The slate's pretty wide open. So drop us some recommendations of things we need to read.
Yeah, my main 2021 goals, just putting it out there, is Malazan. We've done the first 2 Malazan, and I really want to get into Discworld. Start reading some of those.
Yeah,
That could be cool.
quick correction there. It's actually Malazan.
Oh,
Yeah.
Malazan.
Yeah, often mispronounced, but I listened to an interview with Steven Erickson. He said Malazan, so we're going with that.
Okay,
But I'm with you,
Malazan.
Josh. Yeah, we need to read a more Malazan Book of the Fall, and we've only gotten through the first 2. There's 10. I think the next 8 could take all of 2021 because those things are thick. But Discworld will be fun too. Those are funny, from what I've heard.
Yeah, I've also never read Game of Thrones, so that could be something we jump into. Yeah.
And you've outed yourself by saying you never read Game of Thrones because the name of the series of the books is actually Song of Ice and Fire. So you've watched Game of Thrones, but you haven't read Song of Ice and Fire, clearly.
Okay, Sir Snavian.
Yeah, that's a Discord deep cut, but probably well deserved. Anyway, let's talk part 4. So Fantology has taken upon ourselves to go through the burden of preparing our thoughts and our notes at some expense, from what Ben is saying, to maybe our reading experience. I don't know. I think maybe I've enjoyed the books even more, but we have done our Taravangian-esque duty here in being the ones to break down part 4 for you. So we start with the interludes. These are the interludes before part 4 starts. So the Szeth, Chiri Chiri, and Taravangian. These 3 interludes were the biggest disappointment set of interludes that I've read yet. I like the first 2 sets a lot more than these 3. I didn't think I really got anything out of these 3. I'm sorry. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong. Before you said that, I was trying to think when you mentioned interludes at first, I was like, what were those about? And then
Exactly.
I can't even remember what the Cherry Cherry one was about besides that she can talk. And
Chiri Chiri can talk, and that's pretty much it. And after reading Dawnshard, this interlude was a huge disappointment. I was hoping Dawnshard would be more important. I have a theory around Dawnshard with like the intent, capital I, and the command. If you haven't read Dawnshard yet, we're not going to spoil, but I was thinking that would be important, and it's clearly not going to be.
Yeah, so that was kind of weird. And then Taravangian was like, I mean, you have some good setup for him where he's like, okay, I'm going to try and be on the side of humanity again. And then just nothing. Like, I mean, he
Total
tries
fail,
to,
right?
It gave you his plan was to get the honor or the blade and that Szeth has to kill Odium.
Yeah, he was trying to get Nightblood to Dalinar. I guess he knows that there's something about Nightblood that Odium can't see into the future, but he tries to get Szeth to get him on his side, manipulate him a little bit, and he totally fails, and he fails to talk to Renarin. So I guess we're hoping for better things for Taravangian. I'm still kind of waiting for the shoe to drop for his plot against Odium.
I know it's setting it up for a major part 5, switching between Taravangian desperately trying to convince Szeth to go into a vision with Dalinar, combined with some drama going down at the tower, combined with drama going down in Shadesmar. Like, this is all pretty well set up, I think, for part 5. And
but that's like, that was hold on, but what you just described was almost exactly what happened in Oathbringer.
There's
I mean, you got Szeth coming in at the end. You got Dalinar uniting so that they could come back from Shadesmar. You got Dalinar showing down with Odium. Like, you got to have a different climax than Oathbringer.
Well, it's very different in terms of like this is a smaller scale conflict for this entire 1,200 page book, where they're really just trying to defend the tower.
That's true. Yeah,
with some like honor spren manipulation.
This is like big game of King of the Hill right now, and humans have not been doing very well. They just left. They just left the hill at the very beginning, so it's no surprise.
For me, I'm with you, Josh. Part 4 and really parts 1 through 4 have been a lot of setup, and I trust Brandon that it's going to pay off. But is it too much setup? that's
No, it
kind of
hasn't-
what I'm trying to think through.
Okay.
Like, have there been enough things paying off that keep the action moving? I can point to some parts here that are just a little slow that I would prefer to move along faster.
All right.
That's the thing, man. I love the payoff with like Navani and like how she discovers the Stormlight and Voidlight, and the fact that Raboniel is going to use that to kill the Radiants. That was really good. But like, did I have to read like through all of that Navani chapter? Like, granted, I love reading this book, but I mean, there needs to be other things that happen besides like Navani sitting at a desk.
Oh my
40
gosh,
pages.
there are. Okay, wait. So are we gonna move past the interludes? Because
Yeah,
okay.
clearly we're moving past the interludes.
Clear the interludes we're not even worth talking about.
One notable thing from the interludes is there's a small detail with Zeth's backstory that I'm assuming will be important in book 5, which is supposed to be the Zeth flashback book, which is that his father was tied up with the honor blades that the Shin are guarding, and Taravangian says actually your father is dead. So that's something to remember in 3 years when we read book 5, I'm assuming. But yeah, let's move past the interludes and go into the main action. So we're going to talk through characters, and we'll get to our Ben and I's criticism of the Navani's plotline and Josh's defense of that. But before we do that, let's actually talk about the chapter headings, because I like doing that, because I like trying to figure out what the little blurbs at the beginning of every chapter are. So these headings are from Kellic, right?
Yeah,
Kellic?
I mean, almost certainly. I don't think it's ever explicitly said, but yes.
They've got to be. And these ones weren't as much of a mystery as other ones have been, a little more straightforward. Like, okay, we have our crazy herald, Kellic, writing these. And the thing that I got of this was Yezrin isn't really dead like we thought he was, but actually, yes, he is dead because his soul is fading. And also, you need to let Bam, Ba-Ado, Mishram go, or bad things will happen. So my mind's kind of trying to wrap itself around all of this thing with the Yezrin dead, yes, no, magic dagger, gemstone thing. I'm not putting it together yet.
Yeah, okay. Stephen, I need help understanding Bam. Okay, because I guess I just kind of got lost and I assumed she wasn't super important, but now it seems like everything revolves around her. So,
well, so she's been mentioned in previous books. Can't tell you exactly where, but a little bit of a coming out party main we haven't seen explicitly on screen. So Ba-Ado Mishram, she's one of the Unmade, and she was the one who gave the singers some forms during the what they call the false desolation, which was, I believe, when the recreants happened at the conclusion of this time period. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just going off the top of my head here, and there's a lot of details, so I could be wrong. So please go ahead and correct me if I'm wrong on Discord. But yeah, this is all tied together into the recreants, which we got a huge detail on later.
but so, okay, so she's an Unmade, but like, so I feel like most Unmade kind of have like a theme to them or whatever, right? Like they're, there's like a theme that governs them. What's her theme? Like,
I don't think we know exactly. Yeah, as far as like some kind of power or emotion or
Right.
things of this, all we know is that she gave the listeners these forms. She kind of stepped in for Odium when the Fused weren't able to come back in for whatever reason.
Okay, and she's not the one that
She's not Shallan.
okay, she's not Shallan because Shallan
the
is the one
corrupted
corrupting Spren. Okay,
Bam is currently trapped
Shallan
away. Bam is trapped away in a gemstone somewhere.
And Shallan was also the Unmade that led them through the Oathgate at Kolinar.
Yes.
Okay, but we don't really like Shallan seems to be good, kind of.
Shallan wants to take out Odium.
Very self-serving good.
Yeah.
Very self-serving good because she's like sneaking Spren underneath Odium's nose. And we know that like way back in part 2, she's sent like a couple Spren to the Yurthiru.
To the two Marays and the Ghost Bloods.
Yeah. So this is all interesting. It's kind of stuff to kind of keep track of.
There's a lot to keep track of at this point in the book.
Yeah.
We're juggling a lot, and this kind of stuff is stuff that's totally in the undertext of the actual story, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like you get like maybe an interlude here, a chapter heading there, and you just kind of have to keep track of it.
which is, part of the appeal of reading Stormlight Archive for
Yeah.
huge nerds like us that love this kind of stuff.
Yep. And hopefully we help you juggle it just a little bit.
I will say I was right on the previous chapter headings. I said
Yeah.
that Raboniel was writing them, and I guess I was half right because Navani was writing half of them. But
Yeah.
I thought that was a nice thing that came together in
Well,
this one.
yeah.
It wasn't a huge mystery like Oathbringer up until the very end, which is good because you don't want to have the same type of thing. But this in-world book was really the notebook, and it wasn't that hard to piece together, right?
Yeah, and I think we actually said in our part 3 podcast that we predicted that it would be kind of them writing it jointly. I think we kind of talked about maybe that Navani was the one doing the undertext and Raboniel was the one doing the main writing. Anyway, so we pretty much nailed that one.
Yeah, we were able to piece that together.
But so okay, I guess we haven't moved on to talking about them yet, like their whole dynamic and stuff.
Well, yeah, okay, let's start going into Navani. So Navani and Raboniel, probably the two, did they get the most screen time? I guess Venley probably got the most screen time with all her flashbacks, but there were several chapters of Navani doing her iterative scientific process of getting closer and closer to Rhythm of War and Warlight and the Anti-Light, and eventually it concluded
causing
into
order out of chaos, and then suddenly chaos out of order,
Yeah. Okay, so Josh, tell us why we're wrong in thinking this went on too long.
Okay, because this did an amazing job of establishing Raboniel as like the best gray character / villain, I think, of this book so far. And it was done in a guise of Navani, like it was done from entirely her point of view. And it was done, primarily focusing on her studies. But it really did such an amazing job of establishing this character in my mind who, and this really culminated in the last chapter. So I'm jumping to the new part 4 for this. But it like within a page of each other, you were like mourning for her that she did all of this to save her daughter. And then you were like aghast because she was going to just she had a plan to completely destroy the Knights Radiant. And that was within like a page of each other. You were torn, like wanting to cry for this character and then hating this character and realize that they had a plan to destroy everything you loved. And so the fact that this section, and I think that really part 4 did this for me, but the part that Navani's chapters made me so emotionally attached to this character means that it was time really well spent. And it wasn't just, it was interesting learning about Voidlight and Stormlight and all that, but what it did exceptionally well was establishing Raboniel.
I think that they could have had that same reaction without the iterative scientific process that Navani went through. Whenever Raboniel was in the room, I was fine with it.
It does seem like Sanderson's indulging a little bit here and going into his, chemist side.
Yeah.
Some here, which is interesting for some, probably.
I don't know. I feel like Raboniel was in the room for most of it. It would be like Navani started. Yeah, I think so. Like she would start on a project for like the beginning of a chapter, and then she would figure something out with it, and then Raboniel would come in, and that's when the majority of the chapter would happen, was with Raboniel.
This, now that we're talking about it, it reminds me a little bit of Emperor's Soul, where she's trapped in a room the whole time. She's got visitors coming in and out. She's working on this magical scientific project.
Yeah.
Is it the same story? Navani's plotline in part 4 and Emperor's Soul? It's pretty similar.
It's pretty similar. I will say that the part I enjoyed was how sneaky Navani was with like knowing that Raboniel would try to merge the Stormlight with the Anti-Light or whatever, and like creating like a bomb, but like not even being suspected because she's like, what did he do? Like coming in and acting all innocent. That was some good, like every once in a while, like at the end of Oathbringer where Navani like made the guy hold the pain the
pain rail.
She was just, she's pretty good. But I still, man, I don't know. I think that, first of all, I've never been sold that Raboniel is any type of good. I mean, I think I was sold at the very beginning of part 1, when we found out that she caused a global pandemic, that she was basically like the equivalent of a Nazi scientist.
Well, I
That's
don't
just
think that Josh is saying, by saying she's a gray character, Josh isn't saying she's any type of good, but he's saying that she's a character with really well realized motivations for herself. Like, she's not evil for the sake of evil. She's evil because she's working against what our heroes want to have happen, but she's working for things that make sense for her.
Yeah, imagine. I mean, she's working to end this constant. Like her entire existence for millennia has been coming and having a war. Like it's, you know, where she's coming from for wanting to end that war, and the only way she can end it is by destroying humanity.
yeah.
I mean, like it's not that she's a good character, but she's well realized.
Okay, I could get on board with that. And I will say one of my favorite parts of this part was where Raboniel was like, Navani, you don't have to call me by a title anymore.
Yeah.
Like that's how much I respect what you're doing. That was sweet. So maybe
Did
I
she
mean, I
do
see
that
the
just to
merit
be
there.
manipulative though, or does she really respect Navani? Because Navani is totally getting tricked here and played a bit by Raboniel for not for the first time, right? Part 4 ends pretty much the same way as part 3, and Navani's made some progress, but ultimately she's helped the enemy, and
I don't think
Raboniel is capitalizing on her trust, right?
I don't think she's gotten played. She always, you know, Sanderson painstakingly tells you that Navani realizes that, um, that this is a tightrope that she's walking, and
But
she's like,
she hasn't come out on top. It's been Raboniel always
I don't
coming
think
out on
that that's
top.
being manipulated though. I think that that's her own personality, like wanting to prove to herself that she's a scholar. Like, there's only like, if it's hard to be manipulated when you know that you're being manipulated, right? Like, I mean, I don't know. So I don't know that. I guess I would just take issue with the word manipulated. She's definitely playing to Navani's sense of wanting to figure things out. But
Well, so my thing is, she's given them both the weapon that can end the war. Navani figured it out how to trap uh, the how to trap Fuse from coming back, but in so doing, she also gave them the weapon for trapping trapping Spren.
right, but like
So
Navani said, all Raboniel has to do is kill her. Like, and then it's nothing, right? And then humanity's gained absolutely zero.
And I
yeah,
guess we assume by the end, Navani's going to turn the tables and free the sibling and free the tower or something. I mean, hopefully we hope for a happy ending. Not necessarily. It's not like everything's going to, this is the penultimate. And even the fifth book, I wouldn't expect to end on with everything working out. But I do expect Navani to get some type of win because she's been taking L's for a while here.
Yeah, but she's been losing on the aggregate, but winning with what we want her to win on, right? Which is expanding the world and expanding what we view as possible.
and again, I go back to the fact that our main thing in like part 1 and 2 was that we didn't have a really good, well-defined villain, and now we have that. And
Yeah,
that was
that's true.
pretty much all done through Navani's
Definitely.
arcs.
Also,
Yeah.
I think Navani, the character herself, was really well developed because I still like this self-doubt of, oh, I'm not a scholar. Here she is finding things that, fused that are millennia old, haven't been able to figure out. So yes, you are a scholar, Navani. You're probably the best one out there. And back from the prologue, Gavilar belittles her, right, with these great discoveries that he's made. Navani, you won't ever amount to anything. And yet here she is actually discovering how to do the very thing that he thought was so awesome when he didn't do it himself. So I think there's some really great connections, and Navani is a great character at this point.
Yeah, so I agree with that. I will say I like that the theme of her of becoming a scholar when she's not. I do think that Sanderson kind of bludgeons you over the head with it a little bit. Like, you can get that theme across without having to say it all the time. And especially the theme of she likes deriving order from chaos. Like, you don't have to say that phrase like 200 times, right? I don't know. So that was kind of one critique I had when I was reading it.
I was okay with it, but sounds like it stood out to you. All right, moving on past Navani. So like we say, part 4 ends with her giving up the secret, and Raboniel's going off to kill all the Knights Radiant with the anti-Stormlight that she will be developing soon.
Well, and we
Let's
should
talk-
say she's like being forced to develop that anti-stormlight, right? She hasn't developed it yet. She just kind of knows the process that she needs to do. Is that right? Am I?
Well, Raboniel has the notebook and she's got the plates, and so she should be able to figure it out in short order.
Okay.
Is how I took it.
I thought she was making Navani sit there and figure it out for her while she like went and destroyed the node. Maybe not.
No,
Then. Maybe I
she
misread
doesn't
that.
know. She doesn't know where the node is. That's still up to be determined, I guess.
Yeah.
But let's talk about another character in the tower. Let's go to Venley. So, did the Venley flashbacks get any better for you guys in part 4 than they were in part 3?
I would say the best part of it was when we had the flashback of when like the Everstorm and the High Storm, and she like falls down and she's about to be killed by
Okay.
a Night Radiant. Was that Kaladin? Because I remember that scene happening.
No, not exactly. I thought for a second because it was a spearman, but the spearman had a helm on, so it wouldn't have been Kaladin.
But I want to go back and read Words of Radiance
To see if there was like some random Parshendi that Kaladin
I think
almost
there
killed and
was,
decided
man.
not to.
I want to say there was.
Based on that description, bless, she would have recognized Kaladin with the Syl spear at that point, right? And Kaladin flew into the conflict late as well. So would he even? Gosh, I don't remember the exact details of Words of Radiance. I don't think it was Kaladin. I think she would have recognized that he was radiant.
Okay, that's fair. But it was also cool to see it from their perspective. Like they're just like flinging around lightning without realizing what's going on, and so it was fun. That was the best part of the flashback. I would say everything else was still like we knew what was going to happen. We like, gosh, I don't know, man.
I thought they were better than 3. The part 3 flashbacks, I didn't really think there was much substance to as far as like new stuff, compelling stuff. For me, the highlight was the view of the Gavilar assassination night, because we got basically a bonus viewpoint to the ones that we usually see just at the prologues. And it was interesting to see that Nail was involved in setting up the whole thing. So that we're getting more and more layers to this onion of Gavilar's death.
That was pretty crazy how Venley just like played Nail like during that part.
Did she? I mean, she lied to him and he bought it. So I guess a little bit.
Yeah. That's what we call manipulated.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I guess that would be play. You're right. Yeah. Because he saw Ulam or Ulam, however you say his name, the void spread. And he was like, wait a second, that shouldn't be happening. And he assumes that Gavilar is the one that made it happen. And do we actually know? I mean, it was that woman, the Axemides, whatever her name was, woman who brought Venley, Ulam originally. Do we assume that she was associated with the Sons of Honor and Gavilar was involved? I guess so.
I don't know. That's kind of weird. I wish we did have some more information on that. I will say also, I'm confused at who actually ordered Gavilar's death. Was it Venley or was it Ashonai?
They voted.
Yeah, so
right. But I feel like Ashonai
it.
was doing it for different reasons too. Like they had
Exactly.
Yeah. So I kind of got lost on that part, honestly.
So
no, I think you got it.
Yeah. So Ashonai thought that Gavilar was trying to bring the Spren back, whereas Venley was actually trying to bring the fuse back.
The gods.
And so
yeah.
But why did Ashonai think that?
Because she the prologue in Oathbringer, she stumbles in on Gavilar and Gavilar shows her the spears and talks about what he's trying to do.
Yeah. So Ashonai thinks that Gavilar is trying to bring the fuse back, the old gods back, whereas Venley is actually the one trying to bring the gods back. And Gavilar, I still don't know if we quite know if Gavilar was actually trying to, or if I don't think we know his exact intentions.
Okay. Do you assume that the prologue in the 5th book is going to be Gavilar point of view?
I think it has to be. We need it. Yeah.
So we get the last piece of the puzzle here.
So, okay, to finish up with Venley, I really also enjoyed her scene with Ashonai when they were kind of bonding over their mother, and then it was kind of like the last calm before the storm, and then like Venley walks out into it was Ashonai that walks out into the storm right after that to camp,
and that's when Ashonai bonds Tamber for the first time.
Right. So that was cool. And she sees a chasm fiend. That was a cool scene.
Yeah.
Well,
that was a cool
the
scene.
chasm, he came from Timber was in the chasm fiend, right? He was helping animate the chasm fiend.
I don't
No,
know
I
about
thought
that.
I thought they had to be like special gravity spren that bonded with the
Mhm.
chasm fiend.
Okay, the way I read it was that he came from the chasm fiend.
I don't
It
think
did
that's true.
It did seem like they were related, but I thought they were special kind of spren that allowed them to grow extra large.
But we know that Spren can be it can be in the gem heart of chasm fiends. I
Right.
think
That's what
multiple.
Saban's saying.
Yeah,
Well, I think multiple Spren can be because.
probably.
don't
I
know.
mean, you see Void and yeah.
So anyway, but yeah, that was cool when that happened.
Yeah, so that was a fun scene. And then I don't know, is there anything else that really stood out? I think that's all I had to say about Venley.
Yeah, and as far as those flashbacks, that's about as far as we go. When we go to present day Venley, so there were some interesting things there. Like she decides to help out and she rescues Lift, but she still can't say the words. Timber tells her, "Not yet."
Yeah.
And that was kind of weird. It seemed like she was ready, and she was like, "Oh, I just need to rescue Lift, and then I'll be able to." And she still can't, for whatever reason. And then she learns that there's more listeners out there on the edge of the Shattered Plains, which is great news for her. But then she goes to tell Relain what's going on, and that goes off very badly. And now she's kind of going off. And Josh, do you still abide by your Moses theory here, or is this falling apart?
I mean, I don't know. Now, I still think it's working. Like they're still trying to get their little group out and band with the other ones wandering in the wilderness. I know that's not exactly how it happens in the Bible, but it's what happens right now.
So I will say that I think that Venley, the whole, like, in order for her to say those oaths, she has to realize that the whole tower is like a prison right now.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and the Knights Radiant are basically being kept prisoner as like when they're unconscious. So that I think has to be what she has to do in order to say those.
Yeah, there's definitely not time at the end of the book for her to make it all the way out there to the Shattered Plains and do stuff with the people out there.
She's not gone, man.
So she's gonna decide at a critical moment to hang back and help the tower, right?
I don't know. What are her powers? What are Will Shaper? She
can do transportation, so she can go into Shadesmar and
Dude,
she can do the stone molding.
This is going to be how it happens, right? She says the oath, she gets more powers. She suddenly like goes into Shadesmar. She frees the tower, gets the powers, goes into Shadesmar, pops out with her homies.
Or does she open up a portal into Shadesmar, bring in Shallan and Adolin and the army of Otterspren and Deadeyes, and they liberate the tower?
And that's that's like exactly what happens in Oathbringer when they all pop in from Shadesmar and go
a little bit,
villain.
yeah, isn't it? Yeah.
We all know that Adolin is going to be leading the charge with Deadeyes, though. That is going to happen. That is a Fantology guarantee.
This is like straight up Return of the King when he goes and gets the ghost army and comes in.
Jumps off the ship and runs at him with no one. Yeah, that Adolin would totally do that.
Dude, yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about Adolin.
Yeah.
So he's off there in lasting integrity, being held prisoner.
These parts were so dang good. These parts were amazing.
Can we just say that lasting integrity is like the greatest misnomer of all time?
Because tell us more.
Well, I mean, lasting integrity, and they don't have like any integrity, right? At least most of the honor sprint don't. So I don't know. I feel like that's just kind of like kind of a funny thing. Apparently not. Apparently other people don't think that's funny, but
I'll say let me try. So I think lasting integrity is basically Super Mario Galaxy with the different gravities going around from different sides and talk about like, you know, crossing over different planes and having to reorient. I don't know if you guys ever played that game, but it was a part of my childhood and I totally saw Adolin like jumping around like Mario.
This is like Christopher Nolan's like Dreamscape.
Oh, that's a good one. Okay, that's probably the best one.
Josh wins.
No, but seriously, the setting is so cool. Like, honestly, I'm picturing in my mind like a modern day city. Like, I'm picturing how I picture Singapore, like super clean,
Yeah.
where everything's like a little bit too orderly. I've never been to Singapore, but this is just like how it is in my head. And like everything looks really nice.
It's
And
also like at the
then-
end of Interstellar when they figure out the circular gravity thing, whatever that was
yeah.
called.
Yeah.
Or there's some parts in the Three Body Problem trilogy that are kind of like this as well.
So
Yeah.
here's my question though. The setting didn't really influence the action at all. So do you think that we're going to see that setting actually play a role, or is this just like, oh, this was like a thing in Sanderson's head that he just wanted to get out there?
I don't think so. I think it's supposed to just kind of like set up this alien feel to it, and the Spren are characterized by the place that they live a little bit.
Okay. So yeah, okay. So Josh is a fan of Adolin's sequence here with the trial. You know what it reminded me of, and it's been a long time since I've read Mistborn, but it reminded me of the Khandra trial. And I guess I don't want to give any more spoilers than that, but
Yeah, I have zero memory of that. I need to reread those. That's probably a 2021 thing for me.
Yeah. So if there is one criticism I have with part 4, it is that I would have liked to maybe trim off a little bit of the fat from Navani and from Venley. And
Come on, Josh, you said those were perfect.
they were great. They're like, I don't know, I'm not too into fitness, but I feel like they're at like 20% body fat where they're like looking good, like super fit. But if they got down to like 18% body fat, then they would be like, amazingly fit or something. Yeah, I don't know. But I feel like, and then it could have gone over to Adolin and applied over there a little bit, because I loved every part of the setting. I love the drama, the juiciness from the trial and from Shallan and her interaction. So I wish that we would have gotten more there.
Are those body fat percentages accurate at all?
Yeah.
As far as like super fit people?
I think
Josh, you can get down to like 6% body fat. So I don't
like aren't like Olympic athletes like 6%, something like that?
I think a six pack, you need like 16% body fat to have like a solid six pack.
For those of us that know, Josh has always been the fat twin, but he's currently reversed the scales on that situation. So
Josh is looking to lower his percentages, clearly top of mind, but not to distract from your point there. So the trial. So Ben, were you as into it? I mean, I agree, Josh. I think we could have spent a little more time. I don't think I needed any more prep, or I didn't need any more description of how complicated the legal system was. But I would have liked like maybe one additional little gimmicky element to how the trial worked, or something a little more fun. I could have seen that.
I enjoyed it. I mean, it was cool kind of to see like Adolin gets played like we know he would. Like he didn't really stand a chance. I did like how I did like how like wasn't like nothing really played out with him like we thought it was going to with him presiding over the trial. So that was cool. I enjoyed how the heist run basically like at the end just tried to make it a coup, or not a coup, but like just like tried to override everything by like locking up Kalek. So that was a good twist. I feel like that was kind of the last gimmick I needed for the trial. And then with everything with Maya, I'm just gonna stick with Maya. That's how I've always read it in my head. That was awesome. That was like Sanderson right there, like really hitting his stride.
Yeah, I put this on Discord and I stand by it. I think this was the first big twist of the book.
Yeah.
The hashtag we chose.
So yeah, do you think that we chose, or the fact that Maya like came back to life was bigger twist?
No, Maya coming back to life has been hinted at since Words of Radiance. The fact that she's becoming more the fact that she's becoming more sentient, and for sure an Oathbringer when she starts screaming and like when he knows her name,
and she can be summoned quicker than the usual 10.
Yeah,
lots of hints, but it hadn't happened yet, and this was a big moment.
So I wouldn't say that's a twist. I would say it's a big moment, but the twist of the Spren making a joint decision with their Radiance to cause the Recreants, dang, that was nuts.
Yeah, exactly. Because everybody's like the humans to betrayed their oaths, whereas like maybe the Spren were just as culpable. Maybe like, does it take two to oath? We don't know.
And it seems like there's some reason the ink spren blended is like, well, maybe this isn't even great news because it means that there was some reason that they saw that had to be that was worth dying for, that these oaths were so terrible. Or on the other hand, was it a result of the conflict with Baido Mishram and the false desolation and
Right.
whatever was going on at that time that we don't know much about? That's
And
kind of what I'm thinking.
And also, they didn't know that they were going to die for sure.
Right.
Right. They knew that something bad would happen, but they didn't know they'd
Right.
die.
So my understanding is that humans destroyed Braze. What's the
Not
planet
Braze.
called?
Yeah,
Not
Brace or Ashen.
Wait, was it?
Ashen. Yeah. So the humans destroyed Ashen with surges. People seem to think it's mostly Dustbringers. I'm kind of thinking it was Bondsmiths. That's like my little theory. But so but either way, they destroyed it with unconstrained. What am I trying to say?
Unconstrained investiture.
Yeah.
Related to tied to the surges. Yeah.
Yeah. So the unconstrained surges, that's the word I was looking for. And then they came to Roshar and they figured out that with oaths and bonding the spren, then they could put like parameters around the surges. Right. This is kind of like I'm extrapolating a little bit, but I think this is kind of said on page.
Okay.
So, Josh, you don't think that? I thought that a spren was always required for a surge to take place, and Ashen didn't have spren.
That
Right, I think-
like that's what we think, but maybe Josh is kind of redefining, doing a
I
little
don't
Sanderson
think-
twist on us.
I don't think so, because the way investiture works and like the broader Cosmere, like it doesn't always require. It requires a Nile,
Nile, like the river. Nile.
Yeah, but like in Mistborn, you just need the metal. You don't need
Yeah.
like a spren.
Yeah, but you also have to be misborn, or you have to be born with some type of ability.
Or snap and get it. Yeah, in Dawnshard they say you need intent and a command, and that's how investiture gets formed on the different planets, and it does seem to vary. So yeah, maybe on Ashen, maybe they didn't need it and they came out of Roshar and Spren were now available, and so things were redefined. And at the time, shards are involved in changing things around, and who knows, anything is on the table really.
Yeah, we do know that things work differently in different worlds, right? Like with like Six of the Dust, like there's very like Cosmere weird things happening there. Same with Elantris, right? So like we know that Warbreaker investiture works differently in different worlds. So you could have a point there. I give you that.
Well, I'm pretty sure that it's confirmed that they were using surges somehow on Ashen.
There were definitely bondsmiths in the conversation that Dalinar has, part 1, part 2, somewhere back there. They talk about how there were bondsmiths before they came to Roshar. So that you would assume that there were the other surges as well. But yeah, were Spren involved? Maybe not. Maybe the Spren were part of the Oaths. I could get behind that theory. I think we just we just know so little, really.
Yeah, and did Spren exist before humans? I've always thought that Spren are a result of human
Observation and emotion.
No, Spren are for sure part of the world. I feel pretty confident on that. Like honor and cultivation came to the world, and their influence created the Spren manifestations. There's splinters of the shards, right? Whatever terminology that is.
It also has something to do with observation, because observing Spren, changes their behavior, and at some level, like the emotion, anger Spren.
Yeah,
Spren.
attracted to you. Okay, yeah. So this is all kind of deep diving. Back to Adolin. I think we can all agree that this was awesome, and that we all kind of had many mouths dropping when she said we chose, and then all the honor Spren just like freak out, like just slowly start walking away, like, well, this is crazy. Yeah, so that was a cool moment.
To go back to the deep dive a little bit, it talks about something called Nile Spren, like specifically Spren that are like not your usual Spren. I assumed that Nile Spren were different, and I was thinking at the time maybe Nile Spren just mean like higher orders of Spren that can form the bond, but also there's something with Spren and Soulcasters, and my theory is somehow, Spren were trapped as well, like Bido Mishram in gemstones, and then this is the Soulcasters we see now. Soulcasters are mentioned a little at the beginning of the book, and Navani says they're like the higher orders of Spren, but they're a lot smaller. And so could it be that this had something to do with the false desolation breaking and the recreants and all of this? Because it seems strange just that the knowledge from Oathbringer, the knowledge that the humans were really the Voidbringers, would have caused the recreants. That always seemed a little strange to me. And so I'm glad now we have this room for some more details, but I don't know what it is. I think Soulcasters are involved somehow, though.
Yeah, Soulcasters are going to be involved. Yeah. Okay, so what about Shallan? So I think that the one thing that I will say about this part is that it was kind of a battle between Shallan and Adolin for who you were more excited to read about, right?
Who the MVP was?
Right, who the MVP was. Because I would switch away from Shallan to Adolin. I'm like, man, I was really getting into Shallan there, and then it would kind of switch back. And so, I mean, okay, so yeah, what do you guys think about that?
For me, Adolin remains MVP, but this was really great for Shallan. So a lot of things here with Shallan, right? So we confirmed, let's talk about the first thing. We confirmed that Pattern really was the second of Shallan's cryptics that she bonded. And the first one she killed when she was a child. And Ben, you nailed this in part 2. You can go back to the Discord. Mic drop. You can go back to the Discord notes and timestamp it and everything. And yeah, you had that one pegged. How did you figure that out?
I like I said in the message, man, I woke up with the knowledge. I don't know. I think
Taravangian day.
Right. I think it was because the last chapter I read was when Adolin talks to the Deadeye, or encounters it, and then I put the book down after that. And so I think that the scene that Sanderson just expected to be kind of glanced over, really just stuck in my head the whole night.
Your subconscious mind figured it out.
And then I had Taravangian moment where normally I'm the one coming to you guys for the theories and the in-depth Stormlight archive, but apparently this time I was blessed by cultivation.
Dude, yeah. So that, I feel like that kind of took away the jaw-dropping moment, was because that was, once you saw it, it was pretty well foreshadowed that was going to happen. But I do feel like it was handled really well. Even with just Veil, realizing, this is kind of on the nose a little bit, but realizing that the name Veil was meant to keep that knowledge from her, from Shallan.
Mm-hmm. I will say that Pattern, it was kind of like Pattern had what did Pattern try and form when he started to form a little figurine and she ran away from him. I was kind of confused about that part. And also, how did
I assume that he was forming, bringing in her Deadeye.
Yeah, but can you do that? Cryptic. How do you
or
do
forming an illusion of it somehow? Seeing you need to acknowledge this.
Yeah, I think that was happening. I just didn't know that was something that could be done.
It was a little confusing. I was also like, "What is this?"
Yeah. Anyway, so how did Pattern find her? That's still a key question.
Yeah.
But also nobody is going to blame Shallan for having a childish reaction. Not a childish reaction, just the reaction of a child to killing her parents with this
dude, except for half the honor spread.
Well, yeah.
Those guys are ruthless.
Even they didn't really know the full context of it. Not that it would make a difference. But.
So part of me wonders if there was some Sons of Honor shenanigan or Ghostbloods. This would be Ghostbloods, right? Her family was working with the Ghostbloods.
Yeah, for
so if the Ghostbloods specifically sent a cryptic to bond her, and
right, because if you're Pattern, the cryptic, why in the world would you go bond with the one person who has just killed a cryptic Spren?
Yeah,
well, even originally, the original cryptic Spren that she bonded, I think, was probably sent by the Ghostbloods.
Or was the fact that she had a cryptic what drew the Ghostbloods in?
Right, and so you have so many questions, right? does she have to re-say the oaths, right? B, when did she get pattern? C, like, how young was she here? Like, are Spren just bonding children? Like, is it possible for a child to say those oaths and mean them? Like,
Mhm.
there's like a lot of, and plus, like, at least at that point, Shallan had like a decent life, right? Like, she was kind of the daughter
Yeah.
of a Light Eyes family who at that point was like, I don't know, just
Is
a
it
lot of this
possible
is
she wasn't bonding pattern until like well into Way of Kings? Because in Way of Kings, when she's all terrified because she's seeing the cryptics and she's drawing them, isn't that
right.
like a bunch of cryptics observing her? Like Pattern's one of
Yeah.
them deciding to come
I,
over
yeah,
and bond her?
I think that's the theory, is that she didn't bond pattern until Way of Kings.
I like that. Yeah, I could get behind that. But then,
That
did she have to
that's what's
re-say the
in,
oaths? Do you have to
that's what's
re-say
in
the
my
oaths if you
Discord.
broke your oaths?
She would have had to say at least like life before death, strength before weakness, journey before destination, right? I don't know though. If you break them, can you? Who knows?
Yeah,
We have not
and
seen that before.
yeah. So anyway, it was well done, and I think that all of us enjoyed that. And I think, but like the thing that kind of like maybe not overshadowed it for me, but like was more interesting was her kind of coming to grips with her personalities, right? And like um we know that Veil's gone, is Radiant gone? It was cool that Radiant was the one that killed Ileel or
Ayale.
yeah. So that was cool. Like
Yeah.
Radiant,
Lots of L's.
yeah. Well, and it was cool that Radiant did that because it's a tie into Taravangian's point of view, where like the leader is
Yeah.
gonna kind of protect the common person.
Yeah, and that's something we talked about as well. Like we were kind of right there. We thought that Ayale was killed by Formless, but it was still Shallan, but it was actually Radiant. Formless wasn't as big of a deal as we thought
Well,
she
Josh
was
was
going to
actually,
be.
I went back and listened to, I think it was part 2 podcast, and Josh said that Formless was her base personality. And like, and that was kind of what we learned, was that like Formless was Shallan and Shallan was Formless. Like they were kind of one and the same.
Well, it wasn't like she was always Formless. She was always Shallan, but she was like bringing in Formless as something that would protect her or something that she could go to avoid all the pain of her past.
I think Formless was her way. It was, she was going to become Formless when she went to the Ghost Blood, like fully join the Ghost
Okay.
Bloods.
That's fair.
So I don't think my theory was exactly right.
I will say that my one critique of this part was Adolin sleepily muttering life-altering wisdom to her on her way out the door. Like, who just wakes up and is like, who's the better swimmer? The person
I don't
that
know.
the sailor that lives all day in his ship and drowns, or the person that never touches the water?
Well,
You don't just wake up and say
so
that, man.
I disagree. Partly because Adolin is Dalinar's son, and Dalinar is always spouting stuff like that,
Uh-huh.
and also because Adolin has had to think a lot about what it means to be strong, and because he's not radiant, like he's strong in different ways than other people.
I agree that fits
and-
with his personality. I have never in my life thought like that at 7 a.m.
Wait, and he has been always like stressed the entire time about wanting a time to talk to Shallan and like
Yeah.
help her feel vindicated. So my guess is that like he had been planning on, telling her this for a long time. And
So that's when you do your big speech? Is when
I
your
don't
wife's
know.
getting dressed in the morning?
Well, so he sees that something's wrong with her. He's
yeah.
like, there's something way messed up here, and he doesn't know what to do, maybe other than
And-
like go for his
and-
prepared speech that he's had in the back of his mind.
Okay.
And this might be his last time to do it, because he's going to his trial today. Like he might be thrown, he's planning on being imprisoned.
Yeah,
So-
that was one thing that I felt we didn't get enough time with. Like, we're looking at the possibility of Adolin being locked away forever, and these guys don't seem to be too concerned about it.
Well,
I think
I
it's
think it was because Shallan was there, and he's like, "Would I allow her to break me out?" Like, I don't know. I feel like he was more concerned about not the fact that he would be in prison, but the fact that he would fail the mission. And I feel like we did spend a lot of time with his fears about that.
I don't know. I guess I was expecting more of a confrontation of this fact that if he loses the trial, he'd be locked up. Like, they need to address this. They can't just say, oh yeah, we'll talk about it tomorrow, we'll figure it out. Like, they either need to say, we're accepting this, we've got a plan, we got something. It didn't seem like they were...
I think
Shallan-
it seems, yeah, I think the honor sprint treat prisoners a little bit differently. Like, I think even if they did lock him up, I think they would still
they're
like allow
preparing
Shallan
his
to
cell.
see it.
I will say though that Shallan probably wasn't too worried about it, because in the back of her mind she was pretty convinced that she was going to go kill Kilek and take his place, and so she wasn't worried about that. Adolin was more worried about not living up to expectations. But I do see where you're coming from. Like, it seems like this is like he's on death row right now. You know what I mean? He's not really like coming to terms with his like.
Yeah,
fate.
although Adolin does for sure have a huge invincibility complex, so maybe he was never concerned about it.
Yeah, like, I'll just charge 12 people and expect to live, and I'll just,
Yeah. Too used to a shard plate. With going back to Pattern a little bit, like, I'm still a little confused about, was Pattern the spy or not, and was he really just talking to Wit? And I just had a little too much whiplash back and forth.
I think he was talking to Wit. I think that Formless was still the spy that was talking to the Ghostbloods. I don't think that's been like 100% confirmed. But
well, do you think that the person that was close, because they said that we have somebody close to Downer or whatever, do you think that was just Jasna being close to Wit and Wit being spied on?
Maybe.
Hmm.
Or
Wit's already concerned about people spying on him.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Ghostbloods specifically. Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Right, I'm saying Ghostbloods have acted like they have this person close to the inner circle, but that could have just been the. It's like the classic. I slipped a recording pen in with the like cops' office supplies. Like, Wit got fooled by the oldest, playing the book.
Yeah.
So I'm like, intern Ghostblood was like, I'm gonna get Wit.
Still a lot of questions around Shallan. You kind of hinted at this, Ben, but I did want to mention, like, as far as the whole identity crisis, her dissociative identity disorder, I'm interested to hear. I would like to hear from someone who has this in real life to get a sense of how well this was handled, like how realistic this seems. And to be fair, we don't know what will happen with Shallan moving forward. Like, I would assume that she's not just like, oh yeah, I'm Shallan now, never happened, I'm all perfect. I would assume she's still got some issues, but I thought it was interesting that at this point, it seems like she was almost healed of her mental shortcoming here, or her disability.
Well, I don't know. I think that Vale went away because Vale's main purpose was to ease. This is narratively. I'm not talking about like how the disability works in real life, but narratively, Vale was there to protect Shallan from the knowledge that she broke her oaths. And so now that she came to that knowledge, I can see why Vale would go away. And again, this is within the confines of the story, not without dissociative. So
it's possible that with DID, like, maybe these identities are built up to serve a purpose in someone's life. Maybe we shouldn't speculate too much on how it actually works in real life, but I guess what I'm trying to get at, I would like to learn. Maybe I'll make a Reddit post after if we finish the book and see if we can get one of the beta readers to comment or something. He did say that chapter 93 was the hardest to write because of getting the perspectives right, and it had the most revisions, and he had a lot of input from beta readers. So I'm going to assume that he's doing it the right way. I mean, I just read Dawn Shard. I talked about how as a quadriplegic, I was really affected by it and thought it was really accurate. So I think I'd be pretty hypocritical of me to say like, oh no, that's totally wrong, because one, I don't know. And two, he's done it well in the past. And I do have a lot of trust and respect in Sanderson. So I assume this is done well, but I would like to hear a little bit more from someone with DID.
Yeah. So I was confused a little bit. Did she actually say an oath there? Or, I mean, so we know that oaths for Lightweavers are accepting truths, right? Or something.
Yeah. I think she did.
Okay.
I think
she used up a ton of Stormlight.
She did.
She used up all the Stormlight in the, in the really nicely polished and cut gemstone that she had. I guess usually saying oaths gives you like a huge burst of power.
Right.
It could be different from for light weavers.
Yeah. Okay. So we're kind of questioning that.
What about Thydakar?
Yeah. Interesting.
We got
So
some
we're-
hints. Your theory is that this is a character from Mistborn, right, Ben?
Yeah, I'm still sticking by that, man. I've gotten some support on Discord too.
I dismissed that at first, and I'm starting to revise that a little bit.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. But the thing is, though, I don't know. He's kind of spoiling it for people that, unless he does like an Azure thing or Azure thing, where it's like the same character but a different name, and wouldn't know it's the same character unless you've already read Warbreaker. But if he introduces this character, then like people that read Stormlight before Mistborn are going to have something big spoiled for them.
I would assume, like you say, it'll be an entirely different name, and we'll never actually see the first name.
Okay.
As we try to kind of dance around the Mistborn spoilers. Yeah. If we get into part 5 and it becomes more obvious, we'll throw out a spoiler warning for Mistborn and talk about it full on. But for now, that's probably not necessary.
Yeah. We're in theory land right now.
All right. So the final bit was Kaladin and the Bridge 4 viewpoints. Kaladin wasn't one of the names on the first page of part 4, but we did get one excellent chapter with Kaladin. We finally got the Wit story that Josh was asking for. So Josh, did this meet up to your expectations?
Yeah, dude. I straight up, I always love Wit's stories. I think that this could be like a bedtime story that I tell my kid,
Yeah, for sure. You should do it.
Yeah, no, I'm fully counting on it. I love the story. I love all of his little parables that he puts into his books. And this one was no exception. And just how tailored it was to Kaladin's current situation. It's just great, Anyway.
Yeah, I loved it too. It was cool that Wit's like, don't read into this. You're gonna totally read into it. And I will say the font on the chapter heading was weird. And so at first glance, I thought it said the dock and the dragon. Like the G looked like a C to me. And I was very confused for like a solid minute, like while reading the chapter. I'm like, where's the doctor here?
So you're as confused as Kaladin when Kaladin was told there was a dog. And he's like, what the heck is a dog?
A dog is like an axe hound, only cuddlier.
Yeah. This was a great, I'm with you guys. It was great. I got a little bit emotional during the story. I thought it was awesome, hit home. As I sure it did for a lot of people. So, I thought it was great. And I guess we'll see if Kaladin is able to apply this, right? So he's waking up now, he's healed, but his current situation is still not great. Is he going to be able to kind of think back to this learning and try to improve with what's going on with his emotional state, hopefully?
Can we just talk about the hug between him and Wit? Like,
yeah, let's talk
or am
about
I just
it.
imagining that? I just like that was like so perfect. Like, and the fact that Wit was like totally willing to betray his agreement with ODM by directly interfering in that. That was a cool kind of like there's undercurrents to this that we're not exactly sure about, and man, it encapsulated so much stuff.
I mean, Odium was cheating, so Wit thought he was fine too as well. Yeah. And Sanderson said the Wit story is going to happen in a place where you don't expect Wit to turn up. And on Braze is not necessarily where you'd expect to see either one of these characters. So there was a lot going on here. It was great.
Were they on Braze? I didn't think it was. I thought it was like meant to simulate Braze.
It was the same exact landscape that Raboniel described Braze as being. So yeah, it either was Braze or it was meant to like spiritual realm Braze. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Talking about Braze, we also had confirmed that people are in fact world hopping through Shadesmar. That was confirmed between the conversation with Raboniel and Navani. Because Navani was like, how long would it take to get to Braze like in a spaceship, essentially?
Oh yeah.
And
she's
Raboni was
well,
like,
they tried, but yeah.
It died within a few hours. So we're meant to assume that there's just some random fuse orbiting one of the planets in the Rosharian system.
Yeah, that is a thing.
even with a lot of storm might heal them.
Okay, so yeah, my postulate or my wondering what would happen if you tried to cross between worlds in Shadesmar if you were just be met with like solid, brick, because it was the opposite of nothing. It turns out that you can just go, it's just kind of like a separate plane of existence where you can just, if you just journey for a long way, like we saw happen in Secret History, only in the spiritual realm, it probably seems like something like that.
Yeah, again, I go back to my theory that like Shadesmar is the cognitive realm, and if nobody has cognitive impressions of space, then it's probably a lot shorter distances than you would have in space.
It's like if you fold it in half and stick a pin right through it, you can just traverse dimensions. That's another Interstellar thing, right?
I mean, that's a wormhole thing.
That's just like a general Stephen Hawking level stuff.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. So okay, what about Tef's viewpoint? We're kind of sticking with Bridge 4 for a second there. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Let's wrap up with Bridge 4. Okay, so you like the Tef viewpoint because that wasn't my favorite of the three, but tell us why you liked it.
I liked it because he woke up and he just assumed. I've never struggled with addiction, and nobody super close to me has either. But I think that was probably done realistically well, where he like wakes up and he just assumed that he had had a relapse. And then he proceeds to open up to the crew about his parents and his experience. And I don't know, it was just like, I really appreciate Tef this book. He's pulling Bridge 4 on his back right now.
I think it's great how, the three of us have different life experiences. And as we read through, there's different things that strike us emotionally. And Sanderson is really, I made this comment on Discord, but, bravo for Sanderson for writing this series with the intention of like trying to make the world a better place, like actively writing a book series that highlights a ton of different things, but is ultimately trying to represent different, things that don't get enough time on screen and connecting with a lot of people. And, I've seen a lot of comments on Reddit about people, tagging Sanderson saying like, look, I was in a terrible place and these books have really helped me out, Life Before Death, Strength Before Weakness, etc. There's so much good that comes out of reading this series.
Yeah. And I like how he does it unapologetically too, because there are some, I think that in some ways, like he could suffer narratively from it, or maybe just because he's not going along with a trendy kind of grimdark, more, brutal.
And he never seems preachy while doing it.
No, well, I think sometimes he could. Like the fact that he puts in pretty much a parable into every book from wit, like that could come across as preachy. Like if it would seem out of place if Joe Abercrombie did that.
For sure,
his books, but it would seem preachy in his book if he did it. But because Sanderson has kind of established that that's the tone of his books, it doesn't seem too preachy. But that doesn't mean it's not really. I don't know. I'm not trying to criticize it. I'm glad that he's not trying to like toe the line of like trying to be trendy with what's going on with larger fantasy. He's just kind of doing himself.
Yeah, I think this is like an ancillary like to his Rule of Awesome, where he is like part of that, right? Like he doesn't care if this kind of stuff wouldn't actually happen in the real world. Like, like that's the kind of the grimdark version of the genre. Like nothing's going to happen that wouldn't also happen in the real world, given the set of constraints, where he's just like, if it makes people happy, then put it in there. You know what I mean? Like, find a way to work it in. If it's making you happy as an author and you think that's going to connect with people, then do it.
I'm assuming the A word you're going for there is addendum, perhaps?
No, ancillary. That's what it's like.
It is ancillary to it.
Right. Like it's not like he says like err on the side of awesome in terms of like powers and like abilities, but like this is err on the side of awesome of putting stuff into your book that might not belong there always, but like you think is going to connect with people.
So last two viewpoints before we wrap up. So we got Relain and we have Dabbid. I've I feel like I have to retract some of my comments on Dabbid because I didn't say anything bad about Dabbid, but I did say like, I forgot this guy existed and now he's awesome. And I'm totally on team Dabbid.
Well, you
after
can't
getting
retract
his
that you forgot
viewpoint.
he existed. Did you forget or not?
I did forget, but I'll retract my like rhythm of skepticism that I attuned while saying that, because now I'm totally on board with Deb. Like, I'm glad he's back and I'm glad we got his viewpoint. And I thought that this was, really well done for, someone who's mentally handicapped.
Yeah. So I'm just going to say, I agree with that. With Relain though, man, I don't know. Relain's just not my favorite right now.
You think he's too much of a jerk to Dabbid?
He's a jerk. He was kind of a jerk to Dabbid. He was for sure a jerk to Venley after Venley like came clean to him.
I don't know. Venley
Well,
just told him
I
that
thought that was a natural, yeah.
Yeah,
again,
Venley
I think
just told
it's
him
natural,
that
but
she
oh my
destroyed
gosh.
his entire civilization, and he like gets upset with her.
Yeah, I think that was fine with them. I do think it might have been a little crass with Dabbid, but I think it's also interesting that Relain, I'm glad that he's not making Relain the, perfect person, is like, oh, we feel so bad for him because he's awesome and he's, being discriminated against, but he's still like a pretty dynamic person in of himself. Like, he's got faults and he's got blind spots.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I don't know, man. Relain's not my favorite right now. I think it's because I was like hoping for like awesome things to happen with him. Like either for him to like bond the tower or like
Dude, give him a break. You still might. This is part 4. We just got part 5. The sibling who straight up said that he would have been a great person to bond.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I'm telling you, I think that this is one of the reasons why it's hurting me to like take this much time after every single part to analyze it.
The 12 hours you've had to wait.
No, I'm just saying, like, thinking about, I don't know.
So the sibling bonding. So we have these guys are both candidates, right, to be the bondsmith. We've joked about both of them. Relain has been talked about bonding the sibling on screen. That was Navani's suggestion, but Dabbid has been communicating with the siblings. So Team Relain or Team Dabbid for sibling
Team
bond?
Dabbid. Team Relain, man.
You are Team Relain after saying you weren't a fan of Relain?
I'm still not a fan with him, but I also said that I hoped that would happen. I don't know. I guess I'm not a fan of his story so far. Like, to me, his story has been people go to him with like major life altering news, and he's like, "Well, that was stupid of you," and like that's kind of what his response has been to the last 2 people that have done.
He's got a lot of creme over his heart right now. It seems like he's been held down for a while. I think it's a pretty natural life situation to be in, a pretty natural mental emotional state for him to be in. I'm going to say I'm Team Dabbid as well. I thought, another part that kind of got me emotionally was when he talks about, once I get a spren, I'll be fixed, and my brain that's messed up will be all better. It's like, oh man, heart Dabbid. And I wonder if he really does bond, will that happen? Or is that a healing that wouldn't happen because that's his identity? Like, we kind of talked about this identity-based healing in our Dawnshard review. I don't know on this one. Interesting. It does seem like his identity is being mentally disabled, so he might still be able to be a Radiant, despite that there's nothing meaning that he couldn't bond a Spren, but I would kind of expect him to still have this disability.
So, okay. If Dabbid does, like, how similar to is he too similar to Renarin at that point? Right, because we also know Renarin.
Well, no, I mean, I think Renarin is like on the spectrum versus Dabbid would have more of like an intellectual disability.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So we know that like Renarin is like autistic. I guess I was kind of assuming that was similar to Dabbid.
No, I mean he has like a learning.
Dabbid said he didn't really talk until he was 5 or 6.
I'm a fan of Dabbid. And plus, I think he wants to be Bridge 4, like, and have like be a
Windrunner.
Yeah, Windrunner. Whereas like Renarin has kind of like already rejected that opportunity, and seems like, I don't know. So I think he's a better match.
Do you think that Dabbid hasn't bonded his friend because he's not willing to, like, be honest? I mean, that seems more like a light weaver thing, but because he's been
that could be cool.
kind of lying to everyone. But I don't really see how that works out with, with Windrunners. But
so far, he's only said life before death. Maybe he'll say each of the 3 lines of the first oath at different times. Then when he finally says journey before destination, he'll bond this friend.
Yeah, that's a Steven guarantee right there.
That's a Fantology guarantee. Okay, let's go into our worst of the best segment. We are running low on time, so just quickly, we'll have Michael Kramer and Kate Redding read our intro in. Okay, so like before, tell me briefly the worst part of the part, and then how that turned itself around and was great, or what you're looking forward to for the end of the book.
Okay, so I don't think this is going to be a surprise. I think the worst of the best for me is Navani and Raboniel's relationship. How do you say her name?
Raboniel.
Raboniel's relationship, where it's just, I feel like there's a lot of highs where, like I mentioned before, one of my favorite parts was like, you don't have to use a title with me, and Navani really coming to her own. I feel like it was buried very far under a lot of scientific methody stuff that didn't need to be there. So scientific methody stuff for the worst, and the relationship between Navani and Raboniel for the best.
Nice. Josh?
Okay, how little time they spent in lasting integrity, just in general, and the setting for the best. Like Shallan going and figuring out like when the gravitational plane shifted. Like I could have used a few more scenes like that, and so I'm kind of cheating because none of it was the worst. I just needed more of it.
And they also haven't left, to be clear.
Yeah, but we don't have very much of the book left, and I don't see any like.
Dude, what if that becomes like the human stronghold of Shadesmar?
Okay, yeah, then that would be way cool. I'm just saying. In part
Josh,
4,
you're worsting the best part before.
I'm just saying. In part 4, like I feel like that's when we could have had like a little less meandering through Shadesmar, a little bit more meandering through lasting integrity.
Part 4 was entirely in integrity.
I know. I'm just saying, cut some of the wandering in part 3, and put it just
in part 2.
It's my worst of the best. Okay, in part 2.
Part 2 that you read part 2 twice. That's probably why you thought they were wandering for so long.
Yeah, they wandered a lot.
Okay. All right, my worst part. Well, I guess it's kind of similar to you. So I thought Mraize's plan was fantastic. Really, like it made perfect sense, and he totally could have. He was very close to having Shallan doing this for him. Manipulative, getting Adolin in a position where, I mean, I don't know how much of a hand he had in all this. At least he was able to adapt to it really well. But it seemed like he should have succeeded here, and I wanted more. I guess the best part was I thought this was fantastic manipulation and nice politics, but I wanted more of it. And I kind of wanted it to succeed and have to deal with ramifications of that. And instead, we're still left with this big question mark around Mraize and the Ghostbloods. And we're just doled out these tiny little details. And eventually it's like, what is going on here with Shallan's backstory and the Ghostbloods? So I hope that we get more of this in part 5. And I hope that Mraize does something, because I think he's a cool character. I think he's got a potential to be another great villain, along with the way that Raboniel's developed in part 4, part 3, part 2 in this book. And I kind of like Mraize. I think he's a creepy dude. I want more of him.
Can I add one more quick worst of the best was Kalek. And just like everything to do with him. Like it seemed like, I think like Harold's just in general. Anyway. And as well, I'll give another honorable mention to the Cube.
The Cube.
Yeah. I wish we knew how it worked.
I can only see a Rubik's Cube.
Okay.
Yeah, Kalek, this is kind of a deep cut. I threw this in the Discord as well. But his whole bizarre, the way he was acting and talking, he reminded me of characters straight out of Series of Unfortunate Events. There's a trial at the end of that series, and it's kind of like a farce trial. It seemed like the same thing, and Kalek is just a crazy character who would say things in kind of very off-putting mannerisms, and it seemed like wasn't taking anything seriously. Sounded like Sanderson had been reading a ton of that series, and yeah, I'm kind of with you. It's a little odd. It's a different tone than most of the series strikes.
I will say I was so close because a lot of people were like swearing using Collect's name at the beginning of the book. I was so close to making a prediction on there around Discord, but I didn't do it. So I don't get that mic drop moment.
Wait, okay. Here's crazy. Isn't Collect's breath like a in-world swear? Am I making that up?
Yeah, that's how they use it.
Yeah. So do you think he has breath? Like
Could be.
investiture? I mean, he's like confirmed that he's traveling between worlds, right? He has
No,
an
he
apple.
can't travel. He's trying to find a way off world, but he can't.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. But he has an apple. I mean,
I don't know. I mean, there's
Okay.
a lot of artifacts going around between worlds.
Yeah. Maybe I think he might be confined to the Rosharian system.
All right, let us know what we missed here, what theories you have around these things. Clearly, we're still trying to get through the rest of the book.
processing.
And we're processing, right? We've done our duty here. We're processing, trying to get our thoughts together. And we're excited to read part 5 and figure out what, if anything, from this review is going to make any sense when the entire book is over. So Ben and Josh, thanks guys. Thanks for slowing down, Ben. And let's get back at it. Time for the Sanderlanche, right?
Yeah, let's do it.
Sanderlanche.
All right. See you guys.
Thanks, guys.